As gardeners, we all know the thrill of wandering through a garden center, our eyes widening at all of the pretty plants that would add color and interest to our landscapes. However, amidst this plant paradise lies a few silent invaders. These plants may initially appear harmless, but they possess an invasive nature that can wreak havoc not only on your garden, but also pose a threat to nearby habitats and ecosystems. Hello, this is Amy from Gardening Know-How, and I'm going to unveil a list of 11 plants you should never buy at the garden center. Before we begin, I want to mention that some of these plants may be considered invasive in one area and not another. Even if they are not considered invasive by a government agency, many fellow gardeners have an unfavorable experience with these particular plant species. Plus, a plant may not be invasive in your area now, but in the future it may just make the list. For example, the ornamental Callery Pear was widely sold for decades as the ideal landscape tree. But as of 2023, it is now on the invasive species list because of its ability to dominate young forest areas and inhibit the growth and establishment of native plant species. So let's dive in and save ourselves from future gardening headaches. I hate to admit it, but the first plant on this list is one I have too much experience with. I saw this plant at the garden center and fell in love with its unique color pattern, and I brought it home. I wish I would have known back then what I know now. I have been trying to eradicate this mistake for over 10 years. I would like to introduce you to my arch nemesis, the Chameleon Plant, also known as Houtonia. Don't let its colorful foliage fool you. This plant spreads vigorously, pops up just about everywhere, and is very difficult to eradicate. I was surprised to see this plant for sale at a local garden center just a few weeks ago. It can spread rapidly through underground rhizomes that are very fragile and break easily. Even if you think you have pulled it all up, it will resprout from the root system. If you like the look of its colorful foliage, a good alternate would be anything in the coral bells or folk flower family. They are available in a wide array of colors and form small clumps of foliage that stay compact to provide color and interest to the front of the border. They can also be used as a ground cover. The second plant on my list is another one taking up too much space in my garden. This plant is Lily of the Valley. It may look innocent, but it can spread aggressively through underground rhizomes, which may negatively affect native plant populations. Plus, all parts of this plant are very poisonous. This plant is still commonly available in garden centers in some states, while other states list it as an invasive plant because of its tendency to quickly form large colonies. Even though this plant is thought of as a symbol of good fortune, I have had no luck eradicating it from my perennial bed. If your eyes are drawn to the pretty bell-shaped flowers, a few good alternatives would be snowdrops, white bellflower, or the white balloon flower. All are low-growing and can provide spring or summer bloom. Another very popular perennial plant on this list is the butterfly bush. This is one of my favorite plants because of its attractive blooms and ability to attract beneficial pollinators. But this plant can self-seed and easily invade open spaces and crowd out native plants. And the wild species can even invade riverbanks and reforested areas. The butterfly bush is considered invasive in many states, as well as England and New Zealand. Some states, like Oregon, have even banned sales of the plant. However, recent breeding is coming to the rescue. Growers have developed seedless and sterile varieties that may also be available at your garden center. Look for trademark series called Lo and Behold or Flutterby. When shopping, be sure to do your research and give preference to those varieties that are listed to be sterile or seedless. As I spoke earlier, the ornamental Callery Pear, often referred to as Bradford, Cleveland Select, or Chanticleer, has an invasive side. When the tree was first placed on the market, it was believed to be unable to reproduce by seed. However, as cultivars cross-pollinated, viable seeds were produced, and the tree spread within local landscapes and other natural areas. As the trees spread, they crowd out native species, which are relied on heavily by local wildlife, butterflies, and other pollinators. It has become so invasive that some states have made it illegal to grow, sell, and plant these trees. A few safer alternatives to replace the Callery Pear are serviceberry, eastern redbud, or the flowering dogwood. Fifth on our list is bamboo. It's known for its versatility and quick growth habit, growing into a nice privacy hedge at a rapid pace. But once planted, this fast grower can become incredibly invasive with its complex root system that can spread and grow underground, sending out runners up to 100 feet away. This means that your new bamboo patch may suddenly become your neighbor's patch, as well as their neighbor's neighbor, and so on. Plus, this extremely vigorous plant is almost impossible to eradicate once it has taken over. This type of bamboo in question is running bamboo, and as noted, it can degrade natural areas and displace native plants. Clumping bamboo, on the other hand, grows just as the name suggests, in a clump, and normally stays where you have planted it. This type would be recommended as a well-behaved bamboo in the landscape. It is fairly well-mannered and its root system circles the parent plant with a steady but slow spread. If you do plan on adding bamboo to your landscape, do your research and be certain which species you are planting. If you desire the look of bamboo but want to keep this invasive plant out of your landscape, try any of the tall and upright ornamental grasses available at the garden center. Or if a privacy hedge is what you covet, arborvitae, cedar, and juniper would all be good choices. Up next is the burning bush. This extremely popular ornamental shrub with vibrant red fall color is common in landscapes and commercial plantings. In some areas, it is now considered to be a threat because of its ability to invade natural areas and outcompete native plant species that are used for both food and shelter for local wildlife. This shrub has become widespread along the East Coast and much of the Midwest. Some states like Massachusetts and New Hampshire have prohibited the sale of this shrub. Luckily, there are plenty of great alternatives that provide similar color and interest in the landscape. Both blueberry bushes and oak leaf hydrangeas showcase bright red fall color, along with attractive flowers and multi-season interest. Red twig dogwood is another option for both fall foliage color and continued interest through the winter with its bright stems. Another popular and common landscape shrub on this list is the barberry. This small shrub with purple or red foliage has escaped its original landscape confines and is now considered to be highly invasive in some areas, especially eastern North America. Birds will eat the fruits on this plant and distribute the seed, forming impenetrable thickets which shade out wildflowers and other native plants. And to make matters worse, the Japanese barberry has created a public health concern. It has been shown to have a role in the spread of Lyme disease. A study found that the larger the number of barberry in an area, the higher the incidence of Lyme disease carrying ticks. So this aggressive plant can not only affect our environment, but our health as well. There are safer plant alternatives to the barberry with similar red or purple foliage color. These include varieties of Weigelia or ninebark. Scotch Broom with its cheerful yellow flowers may catch your eye at the garden center. Even though it is considered a short-lived plant, it is bad news. Not only can it spread aggressively and choke out native plants, but it emits a toxic chemical in the soil that may prohibit other plants from growing. Plus, wildlife find the shrub unpleasant and may be driven from a habitat overtaken by this shrub. It has proved to be less aggressive in the east than in the west, where they are listed in several states, including California, Washington, and Oregon, as invasive weeds. A mature plant can produce upwards of 12,000 seeds per year, so it's no wonder this plant is on this list. Fortunately, there are plenty of pretty yellow flowering options for your landscape besides the Scotch Broom. You could consider the yellow wild indigo, also known as baptisia, or any of the eye-catching yellow blooming expiry azaleas. Next on the list is English ivy. Now when I think of English ivy, I think of an old brick building covered in this vine, making it look classic and historic. Many gardeners also use this popular vine as a ground cover, especially in areas with lots of shade. But this non-native plant is now considered invasive in many states. Its aggressive growth can smother native vegetation and cause extensive damage to natural areas, walls, and structures, as it reproduces quickly by both runners and seeds dispersed by birds. It is very difficult to eradicate, so the best course of action is to never plant it in the first place. There are plenty of other ground covers and vines on the market that would do the same job as English ivy, but in a non-aggressive manner. One such plant that would offer old world vibes would be the climbing hydrangea. It has a woody base and glossy green leaves that showcase the large white lace cap flowers. Plus it grows slowly and is easy to maintain as it grows. Now we move on to the Japanese honeysuckle. Our native honeysuckles are climbing vines covered with beautiful sweetly scented flowers in the spring. However, their close cousin, the Japanese honeysuckle, is an invasive weed that can take over your garden, suppress the growth of native plants, and ultimately damage the environment around it. They are spread to other areas by birds who love to feast on their berries. Luckily, freezing winter temperatures keep the vines in check in cold northern climates, but in southern and midwestern states, managing honeysuckle is a never-ending problem. It is considered a noxious weed in many New England states, a top invasive plant in both Georgia and Florida. It is now listed as a severe threat in Kentucky, Tennessee, and South Carolina. Last but certainly not least, the Mexican evening primrose. While its delicate pink flowers may draw you in, this plant can quickly get out of hand. This cousin to the yellow evening primrose has been known to outcompete other plants in a flower bed and even take over grassy lawns. They are spread by both seed and strong runners. Even if the plant is pulled or disturbed in any way, new growth will continue from the root system, making it extremely difficult to control. This plant is not technically considered invasive, but there have been enough complaints against it to make this list. Dianthus, perennial geranium, and creeping phlox would all make terrific low-growing alternatives to this pink flowering ground cover. For additional ground cover ideas, be sure to check out our video on the top 10 flowering ground covers using the link in the description. And that's a wrap on the 11 plants you should avoid purchasing at the garden center. We hope this information has shed some light on the potential danger of certain plant species, and we hope it helps you make informed decisions for your garden space. Let us know in the comments below where you're gardening from and which plant on this list or any other plant I had not mentioned has been trouble for you. There might even be enough suggestions for a part 2. Well, thanks for watching and happy gardening.